The day that my life would change forever would just so also happen to be one of the perceived happiest days for a child: Christmas. We had just gotten home from a Christmas party with family, and I was getting ready for bed when I heard my mom and dad talking. I listened in, and I found out that my mom had cancer. I was only 11 years old at the time, and my birthday was right around the corner. I can't tell you how I felt that day, purely because it was over 6 years ago, but what I can tell you is that the 3 months that would follow would be some of the most heart-wrenching months ever in my life, because before my very eyes, I'd see as my mother, who I was very close with, slowly decayed, and to the point that for the last couple weeks of her life, she was stuck in the hospital. I was in 6th grade at the time. Towards the end of the previous year, I had lost one of my best friends due to a disagreement, and we went our own separate ways. Earlier the same year, one of the greatest teachers I ever had got a promotion, went to work at the district office, but then most of the teaching was left to us, the students, predominantly me. I remember going around the classroom each day helping out my classmates with their work, and I feel like that's when I hit my peak. And I'm trying to, and I'm working towards recapturing that, but those days just feel so distant and like they'll never happen again. And then on March 3rd, and then on March 19th, my dad, sister, and I went to the hospital, not knowing that this would be the final day with my mom. And as it neared midnight, I had one thought in mind. Please don't let my mom die on the birthday of my best friend. And then 30 minutes after midnight, the flatline hit. My world crumbled down within those few seconds. People always said they understood, but those were the same people that for years prior made fun of me, made me an outcast. The people that truly, really cared and understood, they only said it once. One of them never really brought it up. The following day, I didn't go to school. My heart was broken, and I felt like there was nothing to look forward to in life anymore. And then the next day, was the first day I put a fake smile on my face and went out into the world, projecting what they knew. "2016, a year that I'll never forget. Not for the right reasons either. Little did I know that at the same time, the Pirate Whip was just released. And I wouldn't know that because around the halfway through season 3 of Lego Ninjago, that's when I fell off. And then later on in 2016, and then not even 2 months after my mom's death, we were evicted. Luckily, we were able to stay with my aunt for a couple months while my dad looked for a place. And luckily he found one where we'd then live there for 3.5 years. Actually, it's more like, yeah, it's 3.5. But, and then after that, and then around October 2020, around October 2016 is when the San Francisco dynasty ended, when the Giants lost to the Chicago Cubs in Game 5 of, I think it was the division championship. And then the Cubs went on to win the World Series, which was good for them because they hadn't won the World Series in decades, in over 70 years. So yeah, it was good for them, but even prior to that, in August 2016, I missed out on the first 2 days of school because I didn't have a shot that I needed to go to school. The TDAP shot, the shot you need to continue on 7th grade. Yeah, I didn't get that shot until 2 days into the school year. And when I returned was when my heart felt whole again. Even though it wasn't, it felt like it. Because I was welcomed with open arms by my friends. Now, I'm not going to share their names here for privacy reasons, and I say that because they don't even have their own names on their social media pages, so I'm not going to put it out there, but they know who they are. In fact, they're probably going to be the first ones to see this video outside of others on you'll know who you are. But yeah. And then May, and then also and then towards the end of the 6th grade, I was introduced to a YouTuber known as Jacksepticeye. And also, at the same time, I was a persistent watcher of a small YouTuber named Grian. And Jack had recently was going through his Undertale playthrough. Dang, that was ages ago. And Grian was, and then later that year, Grian started his Evolution series, Minecraft Evolution, and those were the cornerstones of my feel-good entertainment for a while. And also in freshman year is when I got into Harry Potter for the first time, and that was when my life when it was looking good. And then as 2017 came around, it was decent. Freshman, I mean, 7th grade was a pretty good year, had great teachers, but yeah. And then when it comes to the and then 2017, towards the end of the year, I decided to, what was it then? Was it 2018? Well, yeah, towards the end of the year, I decided to download an app called Omelet Arcade. And there was a guy on there hosting a world called Survival No Rules. Disclaimer though, this was an earlier version of SNR that is long gone today, and I don't think it's even close to being around anymore. But I logged on and I met some people who you could actually see here. NyanDX, or XXNyanDXX. And there was also FNAFan, Skactibur, Tank XOXO, Grem, Lumen RMC, Cat Lover YT, and of course the iconic Steve. But yeah, that was, and Minecraft as a whole is really also a cornerstone to keeping my mental health high during that difficult point in my life. But later on, but also in 2017, I don't remember when exactly, but no. It was much later in 2017, but yeah, yeah, late 2017, that's where we are right now. But like in late 2017 is, I hate to say this, but it's when suicidal thoughts first started to emerge. And for some backstory, I walked to and from school, And there was this bridge I walked across called which went over a river known as Dry Creek. And one day while walking over, a fleeting thought came up into my head of, what if I jumped? And luckily that thought never became more than a thought, but that was, looking back at it, that's one of the scariest points. And then there's also another point and then later the same year, I would look ahead at roads and be like, what if I jumped in front of a car, you know? But to steer away from all of that upsetting stuff, let's go towards some happy things. Like, actually, let's not go to those happy things. I'll talk about those in another video, but right now it's time I get to the big one. And it was late 2017, early 2018, and I was in the bathroom, and I thought to myself, what if I had, quote-unquote, slipped from the shower and hit my head on something and went unconscious and possibly never woke up. And then, in that same moment, I experimented with self-harm. And it never got to the stereotypical cutting wrists, but I bent my fingers back. I guess I was trying to break them, but then as the pain coursed through my nerves and went up to my brain, I realized that I still had feeling. I wasn't entirely gone. I still had some feeling, and then I started to think of my friends and family, and one of the main reasons why I'm still alive today is I never want to do something that would hurt my friends and family the same way, with the same pain that I feel on a day-to-day basis. Because losing a family member is difficult, but the difficulty people don't talk about is when you lose an immediate family member. And you're reminded of it every day when you wake up and they're not there. You know? Someone you've lived with for your whole life all of a sudden is gone. And now I get to the point where SNR, the SNR that's known today, the world that is still up somewhere today, was created in early 2018, February 2018, and dang, that world's 4 years old now, but I was around, it's 2022 right now, 2018, I was 15 at the time. Wait, no, 14, I would be 15 later that year, but, I was 14, and SNR was really popular in its early days. Always peaked up at 30 players, but I'd play on it almost every day, and yeah, that was once more a really important part of my life where, like, yeah, I like this. Life is worth living with this involved. And then as 8th grade came to a close, and then in that same year, the 8th grade, I'd meet one of my closest friends to this day, who also has a YouTube channel. I'm of course going to link to it because he's part of the reason why he's one of the things that inspired me to make my own, and part of the reason why I'm making this video to start off with. And yeah, so you know who you are. And yeah, and then later in the year, towards the end, around April-ish, a saying popped up of Mr. Stark. Wait, no. It was Pony, I don't feel so good. Because we were reading The Outsiders at the time, and we had gotten to the point where Johnny was burned up and dying, and then, like, people made the joke of Pony, I don't feel so good, because at the same time, Avengers Infinity War came out. And also, I want to reiterate something real quick. Earlier in the year, I watched Guardians of the Galaxy for the first time, and one of the reasons why it's my favorite out of every MCU movie, and it's also why it's one of my favorite movies of all time, is because it tackled the idea of losing a mother to cancer and the emotions that go along with it, and being a child when that happens, and that idea really resonated with me, and I fell in love with the movie, and it was also just an overall fun movie to the point that, yeah, I felt really good for a couple hours while watching it. And that means everything when you're really low down. Just having a couple hours where you feel great can mean the world to you, and yeah. So now I get to the point of moving on to high school, and in the summer of high school, or not really in the summer of high school, but no, actually before that. It was all the way back in before junior high when I discovered Rick and Morty, but yeah, skipping all that. 2018, summer 2018. Another one of my friends, which I don't really talk with today, due to them choosing their own life path. I haven't seen them in like a year. Like, I don't even know if they still go to. Screw it. I don't even know if they still go to Johansson or not, because I haven't seen them. I haven't heard of them. And, like, I'm gonna have to check that, because. And I'm not gonna say names here, because, again, even though I haven't spoken to him in a while, I still respect his privacy. And, yeah. So, yeah. People that know me in real life and also know this other person in real life probably know who I'm talking about. So yeah. But yeah, I'll tell a story involving him another day, but yeah, and he actually got expelled from our junior high due to something. I bet you could figure out what it was. But early that year is like, will I ever see him again? But like, also, there was another thing that had recently come out. Hermitcraft Season 6, with Grian involved, joining Hermitcraft in its 6th season. And there was also another man responsible, LA Beatmaker, who made, at the time, 2 remixes involving Grian, being We Are the Drowned and Mumbo AFK. Mumbo Jumbo AFK, if you will. But yeah. And Hermitcraft has really been a cornerstone in my life as well. And as I record this, the 9th season releases tomorrow as I record this. So yeah, that's gonna be fun. But yeah, now's the time I get to now we're going to quickly rush through freshman year, because freshman year was a great year, but this is mainly going into my mental health and why in my mental health journey. And freshman year didn't really affect any of that, but sophomore year, towards March, is when something big happened. Something by the name of the Big C in the year of 2020. March 13th, 2020. Friday the 13th. Friday, March 13th, 2020 is when the Big C reached California. And that was the last day up until August 9th, 2021 that I went to in-person school. And I didn't know that at the time. I wasn't expecting that to be the case at that time. But I quickly fell into depression when COVID hit. Because barely over a month prior, we were evicted again, and since my sister was graduating high school and moving on to college soon, she decided to move in with a friend while me and my dad went to stay with family friends, which we are still doing to this day. And it's been rough because my sister and I, we were really close for our whole lives, and especially in that last year, we got a lot closer, and that was, and yeah, so it was really rough having to go through my sister moving out, and then COVID hitting, and then also moving out, and then being in a new place, and then COVID hitting, and then COVID also hit when I was at an all-time high academically. Well, I was at an all-time high when it came to recovery academically, because I was making up work left and right, and then COVID hit out of nowhere, and then that absolutely threw me off. Because I also didn't have that secure of a connection at home. Of an internet connection at home. I still had an internet connection, and all I have to say is that if it wasn't for Hermitcraft Season 7, I don't think I would have gotten through that early stage of quarantine as good as I did, and also Hermitcraft wasn't the only thing. I also rewatched the entirety of Total Drama at the time, and I also reinstalled Omelet Arcade and found that Little Xavier Gaming 101 was still hosting Survival No Rules, so I rejoined in March 2020. Actually, it was in early April 2020, and Actually, it was March 2020, and it was in April, early April 2020. Wait, no, it was in late March 2020 when I just went out and started a false chunk base, and then didn't join back for like 3 months after, for like, not 3 months, 3 weeks after that. And then I got back on, and then built up that base, and then I'll get into SNR and Commonwealth history in another video, but that was a really great moment getting back into SNR and also installing Discord and getting involved in the Discord community as well. And it was around that time when I met people such as Numis MC, when I met such people as Numis, Lost, Vane, Sin Serpent, Crimson Smile, and also later in that time, I'd meet such great people as Will and Short, and at the time Tele, and even Dark. Like, that was a really good group of friends to have online, and Zave himself to a degree, but like at that time he was still pretty distant from my group, from the group I was in. He was still pretty distant, and arguably he's still pretty distant today, but that's reasonable because he has a job and he has a life outside of Shift Tech. But but yeah, if you're listening to this, Save, I 100% appreciate everything you've done, and I can genuinely say that I might not be here today if it wasn't for you being such an amazing guy and being just such a understandable person, and also just being patient as well with everything that went on with SNR. I'm surprised you didn't close it sooner, because like with all the exploits that happened, if it was me running it, I probably would have ended it in like May, but it kept on going through the summer of 2020, and then around that time is when SMP released, and it was with the Shift Tech community, but it was also just a lot more chill. And around that time is also when like Lava Rising was a thing that we do with the fishermen dudes, and season 1 of SMP was just so fun, and then early junior year was also such a great time, and then October came around, and that's when I lost connection on my tablet, so I lost connection to Shift Tech, I had to work around a new connection for school, I had to work around and then I had to work towards a new way to get onto Shift Tech and stuff like that. And then I also had to figure out a way to get the 1.4 Terraria Journey's End update installed to where I could play it myself, but that was a rough time. And then November 2020 came in and really sucker punched my mental health. And then December 2020 came in, and this is where we get serious again, because that's when suicidal thoughts came back. And I was able to work through them, luckily, but that was once more due to the amazing people I met on Shift Tech, and also the two friends I spoke with on a near daily basis. You two know who you are, and if you're both listening to this, maybe we could get together again. Senior year's coming to a close, and and maybe over spring break we could have a talk, and maybe, just maybe, we could all get up onto Discord and host a movie night or something, you know? But, or like host a game night or something like that. Where I could get y'all into Shift Tech, and then I could start forming bridges between the friends I know in my day-to-day life, and then the friends I know from Shift Tech and just online in general, like. And then as December 2020 set in, and as my 18th birthday was rapidly approaching. Actually, no. As my 17th birthday was rapidly approaching, I also started to. And then the news of Kirby Morrow's death came in. And if you don't know, Kirby Morrow is the voice actor of Cole from Lego Ninjago. And that show was such a large part of my childhood that I decided to go back and rewatch the series and then continue on from halfway through season 3 and to at that time, season 13. I had 10 seasons to catch up on. And then a special, and which would be Day of the Departed, and then another special, and then the movie, and then also season 14, Seabound. But I'll talk about Ninjago in another video. But that was just a great time, and then also for a bit of context, every year I do something different for New Year's Eve, and this year, Joe Hills, a member of Hermitcraft, was streaming on New Year's Eve, and I was there for the various New Year's streams, and as New Year's for me locally on the West Coast approached, I decided to play The Pirate Whip by The Fold, and as midnight came, the "What shall we do with the pirates, ninja?" came up, and then the booms of the cannons firing off echoed with the fireworks, and it was just such a great moment as the end of 2020 came. And again, I'll go into 2020 in another video, but it was just such a great feeling because 2020 was by far the worst year mentally for me, and also the worst year academically. And then 2021 came and wasn't much different. But 2020 came and went. And then 2021 came and went as well. And now in 2022, as senior year comes to a close and the stresses of senior year pressure in, I just want to say thank you to my family and my friends, and you all know who you are. The real J.K. Savage 2.0 freaking J-Man Reviews, or freaking J-Man Illustrates, depending on which account you follow. And then there's also Short, Lex, Nez, Zave, Numis, Will, Tele. Even though you're pretty much a dick now, I still remember those early days when you were a chill dude, and I still feel like that chill dude's in there somewhere, and this is just a front you're putting up to be like this, and then Chaos, you have your moments too, and also just the entire Shift Tech community, and also the Discord community on Tanner's Residence, the KFC Angus, frickin' Ultra Scouter, frickin' Skylanders, Matman, even to a degree, Halid, Survivor, all those guys, and then on the Garden, there's also everybody on there, and I don't know names that much since I just joined recently, but the people of Neverfrost for welcoming me in so easily, and a special thanks to the role models in my life, to the people of Hermitcraft, and to like Dan TDM, and to the creators of Ninjago, Tommy Anderson, and also uh, and then also the people that have made this possible, like, and then also the role models like Buster Posey, Brandon Crawford, Brandon Belt, Pablo Sandoval, Madison Bumgarner, in the baseball field, and then also the people of Old SNR, Fnapan, Nyan, Scatterbird, TinkXO, Grem, Lumen, Cat Lover, uh, my sister, my dad, who was done as good as he can for the past 6 years as a single father. To all of my teachers, which I feel like I could say their names out loud. Miss Amador, Mr. Garcia, Mr. Munoz, Mr. Wendt, Mr. Addington, um, Miss Koshaba, Miss Rosas, Miss Zamora, Mr. Shar, he's the principal, friggin', Mr. Hines, uh, Coach Pete. Shout out to Coach Pete, because his enthusiasm is what makes getting through the past year a lot easier. Dang, that man's enthusiasm is contagious at times. Frickin' Miss Ambrosio, Miss Alberon, who else is there that I haven't mentioned yet? Mr. Aller, Mr. Eilers from 6th grade. What's his face? Mr. Dempsey, you were a chill dude. uh, Waddell, Miss Waddell from physics, freshman year. Sheely's a chill teacher. Fairfield was also a chill PE teacher. There's also Miss Linker, Mrs. Dalton, Mr. Kutz. How did I forget him? Oh, Mr. Kutz. And then there's also what's his face? Mr. Carlin, and then there's also Mr. McBay, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Guptill, Bill knows, and then there's also what's his face? Freshman year. Did I get everyone from freshman year? Mr. Seamus! I don't know how I forgot you, sir, but you were a great teacher, Mr. Seamus. Mr. Mercado, to a degree, I know that you're doing your job and everything. Thanks for doing that. Even though I might not seem that appreciative of you. Miss Evans. Didn't know you that much since I didn't really attend English that much in junior year, but you were a pretty good teacher for the classes I did attend. Mr. Hart, Miss Giberson, you were also a chill teacher. Um, Miss Veneman, you were a chill teacher. Um, let's see. Mr. Hamari, Art, I remember him. Science, already covered Mr. Waller. Math, history, Addington, yeah. English, Mr. Dempsey, Miss Rosas. Miss Stotts, you were a chill teacher to TA for. Um, that's actually where I actually played SNR in a class a few times. Played on SNR in our class quite a bit. And then I swear to God, there's a teacher that I have this year I'm forgetting. Um, we already said Mr. Garcia, Mr. Munoz, Mr. Hines, Alberon, Ambrosio, Zamora. Yeah, that's all of them. I'm not forgetting anyone. Shar, um, and last year, am I forgetting anyone? I don't think so. Sophomore year, Miss Youngman, great teacher. Who else am I forgetting? All of my high school teachers have been pretty good. Miss Gleaves, I knew you were trying your best. I don't hold it against you. You were trying your best. And then there's also, I think that's everyone. So, Mr. David, you were a pretty chill teacher. Miss Linker, I already said. Um, Whoever my first grade teacher was, like, I think it was Robinson? Yeah, I think it was Robinson. And then also, all of the, like, other yard duties at El Vista, you were all really good people, and yeah. And then also the baseball coach, and then the other baseball players. I'm not going to say the names of them, though, because a decent chunks of them are younger than me, so they're still minors. Since I barely turned 18 recently. And I feel like, should I say his name? You know what, I'm going to. No, I'm not going to say his name, but Mr. and Mrs. Aguilar and Grandpa Aguilar, you were really good people, um, and yeah, I think that's everybody I want to mention. So yeah, as this comes to a close, just thank you. If you're watching this right now, thank you for giving me a chance. And also, one more time before I go out, I want to thank someone very specific that has been a massive inspiration over the past few years. Mr. Good Times with Scar. You are such a inspiration, and if if you are somehow hearing this, just thank you so much for doing what you do, and even though you are disabled, you still produce amazing content that puts a smile on my face every time I watch it. And then Joe Hills, a single father out here, also putting out amazing content. Um, yeah, and then just everyone that has been working extremely hard over the past 6 years to make life what it is. And yeah, so as this comes to a close, I guess this is goodbye, because this is it. But yeah, um, if you know me personally, like you know my face, and we've seen each other in person, and you want to talk, there's my email. If you don't know any of my other social medias, but especially if you're listening to this, Andy, and you want to get back in touch, I'd love to, because I'm sorry for getting emotional right now, but some of my fondest memories are with you, and if you'd want to get back in touch, I'd love to do that. If you have Discord, the Shift Tech Discord will be linked in the description. Same username as the YouTube's channel's name, Jack Simpson 2077. There's currently a Buster Posey picture if you're seeing this on release, and if you're not, if you're seeing it in like April or May, it'll probably have something to do with graduation, maybe Survivor, maybe Doctor Strange, who knows what I choose. Or if you're seeing this in June, Arcade Ganon's probably making a return. But, oh yeah, there's one more person I want to thank. And that's one topic at a time for being such a cheerful dude. And, yeah. And then also, yeah, I think that's everything. And, yeah, Discord, Instagram, TikTok to a degree. Those are the three social medias I use if you want to contact me. And there's also my email. Don't try to contact me through my school email because I barely check that. I only check that for like school stuff. And even then, I barely check it nowadays because everything related to college is going to my personal account these days. Which is why I'd love to be able to sign into my personal account on my school computer. Hear that, school? Friggin' I'd love to do that to where I could check up on college stuff, like, when I finish the test in math, for example. But overall, I went from having a very sad mood at the beginning of this to having a very happy mood because even though there's been so much crap to live through in the past 6 years, all of you have made this a great life to live, and as I am now 18 years old, as I am now legally an adult, I am glad to say that I am happy to have you all as my friends and family and inspirations to look up to. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And maybe one day, maybe one day, everything will be back to the point it was before everything fell apart. See y'all in the next one.